Hey, Jen.
Hey, Dana. Hi, everyone.
Welcome to Hypnosis.
And beyond. Today we have Randi Light. She's a educator, trainer, author, and hypnotist, and the founder of the heart-centered Enlightened Living Hypnosis Academy.
Hey, Randy.
Hi,
Thank you
Randy.
so much for joining us.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
We would love to hear for our audience who don't know who you are. Share with us a few highlights of your journey that have led you to being a guest today on our podcast.
Cool. Well, I have been a hypnotist for 20 years, but I also have a master's degree in education with an environmental focus. So I've been leading workshops and teaching even teachers how to teach and different things. So I've always am interested in doing podcasts and letting people know about our work because hypnosis is so profound in helping people. And I mean, I literally just had a client who just left and he was depressed and he had lost his daughter and mother and he was felt so good afterwards. And I that is part of, why I like to be on podcasts and want to be on your podcast is because I want the world to know how effective and how powerful hypnosis is and how it can benefit people and override what Hollywood does. So I just love being on podcasts. I've led one for a while and I just love being able to share the beauty and the power of hypnosis and NLP and and all the stuff that we do, Reiki and combining energy work.
Wonderful. Well, we appreciate that. And could you give us some ideas about how did you get into it initially? If you were in education, what led you to this space?
Well, when I lived in California and I worked with a medicine man when I lived there, a Lakota medicine man, and did a lot of ceremonies, like sweat lodges and peace dances and Sundance ceremonies, and it was interesting to look back at that time. And I actually sidebar for a minute, slept 1 hour a night for 11 nights on the Rosebud Indian Reservation in Rosebud, South Dakota during the Sundance ceremony, which if you think of Dances with Wolves. And, at the time I had, no idea. I didn't even really think that it was a big deal. But now when I look at it, like, how did I achieve something like that? And I feel like I was in an altered state the entire time. I was in a high vibration. I never got tired until that ceremony ended. And so now looking back as a hypnotist, I understand what happened and we can talk more about that later. But when I lived in California, it was my job to teach people to love and care for Mother Earth. And my volunteer work was doing healing work and doing these ceremonies that help people heal. And then I had a baby and moved to the Midwest where I am now near Chicago, but in Indiana, across the street from Lake Michigan. But needed I had a baby, and environmental educators get paid like, nothing almost really. And I needed a new way of, so I started massaging people when I was 20, around 23 or 24, and I lived in Oregon. I had that life-changing moment that changed my life when I was teaching gymnastics and was lifting all these littles out of this gymnastics foam pit and my back, like all of a sudden this excruciating pain happened in the left side in the sacroiliac joint. So I was in pain from head to toe for 3 years, but it got me on my path, right? I was trying to heal myself and couldn't figure out how until eventually I became a hypnotist. But what that did is I had so many massages and learned so many different things, but nothing would heal me. But eventually, when I moved back to the Midwest, I started massaging people because I had a gift because I had been in so much pain and I knew exactly. And because I think I was born with a natural gift, like my thumbs would communicate and I could feel and sense things, and I'm intuitive. So it was a win-win. And so I was massaging people instead of being an environmental educator because I had a baby and I needed, and a child, or a little, and I needed uh, a way to be able to manage both. But then after like 10 years of massaging people, I could not open jars without this painful electric current, right? And then I looked at my mother's fingers and she had rheumatoid arthritis and they were all bent. And I'm like, that's it. I need a new way of helping people heal that doesn't require my body. And that is how I came upon hypnosis. There was some ad in some magazine, 20 years ago we still used magazines, right? And 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 I decided I could go to this guy and get a session or go for 2 12-hour days and learn about it for the same price. So that's what I did. And then eventually I had to do 500 classroom hours because in Indiana, the laws were so weird. But, I needed a new way of helping people heal. And I didn't even know that hypnosis was so great for chronic pain. I had no idea at the time, but that's how.
Wow, that's fascinating. And of course, you dropped some wonderful nuggets about your experience with the Lakota. So I think this would be a wonderful time if you're willing to elaborate on that.
Absolutely. Well, so that was such a magical spiritual time in my life, but I was also in a turmalic, like a relationship, like an intimate relationship that was up and down with my soulmate, who I would also probably call um, the twin flame thing, but who knew that that wasn't a big thing at the time. But the ceremonies they were the most, like, I had no idea. Like, people go to church or temple or something for a couple of hours, right? But when you go to a sweat lodge ceremony, it starts on Friday at 4 and ends on Sunday at 10 p.m., right? So you want to be your best version of yourself, and everyone's on their best behavior at these ceremonies. But like feats take place. I mean, I did a vision quest and didn't eat or drink water for 4 days. And I had a vision, but I prepared for a year. But the Sundance ceremony, if you think of Dances with Wolves, right? Like that was, I mean, being on the reservation and being around all these people. And we know that the plight of the native people, and there's a lot of diabetes and there's a lot of alcoholism, and a lot of problems. But during that 8 days, or that 11 days really, everyone's on their best behavior, and magic and power and lots of prayers and all kinds of things take place. So everyone, what I discovered, is in an altered state, just like when we hypnotize people. It's a lot easier to hypnotize people rather than having to go, get wood and rocks and tarps and all the things that you need to create these incredible ceremonies. Like, we can just hypnotize people and get them into an altered state to heal. But the magic, the healing, people getting pregnant that couldn't get pregnant, and all the different things that I watched people who were dying of cancer, and participated in their healing during a UEP ceremony. So people were in an altered state where they could accept suggestions, right? It took a lot and showed how much they were loved too, right? Because all these people came together to do a ceremony for someone, to help them overcome their cancer. And I witnessed miracle after miracle after miracle. But now, as a hypnotist, I, spend an hour and a half and witness miracles, right? Not 4 days or 8 days or whatever. So it's a really beautiful thing. But it was a wonderful time. My medicine man he was in Vietnam, and he eventually died from Agent Orange. His liver failed and stuff, and he took on a lot of energy. I mean, he was he was a wonderful human, a wonderful medicine man.
What a powerful experience, and how lucky for you. I'm
Yes.
sure a lot of things came into play to get you there, and I have a feeling we could talk about just that, but obviously there's so many other things we want to know. In your practice now, then, how does this all come together, and what do you specialize in? Tell us a little bit about what you do today.
Wow. I started a school about 10 years ago, Enlightened Living Hypnosis Academy, which was, an easy thing since I already have the master's in education with the environmental focus. But so it was, on some level easy for me after I got 10 years of hypnotizing people under my belt and got incredible results. And I love to go to conferences, hypnosis conferences, and teach and learn. And what I noticed that, I mean, it's a big deal to go to a hypnotist. It's time and an investment, right? But the results are incredible. But I was like, if my clients are only going to commit to 4 sessions to change their life, what can I do during those 4 sessions that would be the most healing and the most transformational? And so that's how I came up with my book, The Essential Four, and the Essential Four Success System, where I train hypnotists and I train people to become hypnotists to also learn the Essential Four and use it, because it's a 4 session system that you can use. It's 4 sessions basically that you can use with almost every single client that walks into your door, because it does exactly what they need. And so that is how the Essential Four was born. So I train people on it. You can buy the book on Amazon, but you can also, come for the training. And it gets such incredible results. And that is where I've been spending a lot of my time for years. And that's where I take all my clients through and been teaching people to utilize it and doing regression. So the first session is about uh, confidence building and strengthening the ego, right? And helping us respond more resourcefully to the world. It does a little bit of emotional clearing in a light and easy way, so everyone can have a great hypnotic experience. But I really want, and most of my clients want to respond more resourcefully to the world, right? Instead of, getting triggered and anger. And that first session, I mean, I literally have had people's pains go away, fibromyalgia go into remission, rheumatoid arthritis going away, people having, not sleeping for more than 2 hours a night for 5 years now start sleeping better. I mean, and I was like, oh my God, like it blew my mind, right? Like, what is going on here? But then once we build that foundation, I like to start doing some of the deeper work and getting to the root cause of, let's say, someone's anxiety or depression or whatever it is. I like to get to the root cause on the second session of someone's dominant limiting belief. And I figured out how to use hypnotic enhancers, energy medicine, energy work, and music to really make change on the cellular level to help that inner child really, really be there for your inner child and change and heal. And then I like to think of it that a quantum healing can take place now in all the memories connected to that, because you look at the past differently. And then I also like to do timeline therapy. Are you guys familiar with NLP and time? Yeah. So that one, and I just taught that at Hypnothoughts as a pre-conference for 2 days in July, because that is like such a game changer, all parts of that. And, as we go as hypnotists, we learn how to like, shift it a little bit, make it our own, and make it even more powerful for your client or student. And so that I like to do that one too, and that's a big game changer. And then it all really leads up to forgiveness. Because on timeline, we're letting go of a limiting belief. We've let go of a dominant and negative emotion. We've built on the first session that confidence and strengthening the ego. They're so much more ready for forgiving themselves and others. And that's the process. But so what I also discovered, all the benefits, and you had asked me, so I've never been able to really dig down and specialize. Like I pretty much walk my talk in my life, except for when I tell my students it's much easier if you specialize and get known for something, because otherwise you have to work super duper hard and spend twice as much carrying all of your business forward. So, I've whittled it down to anxiety, depression, insomnia, chronic pain, and creating peak performance. But, you name it, I've worked with it. But the whole Essential Four, once people go through that, I realize they become much more intuitive. And so that was fascinating. And that's really been the work I've been doing now with the Illumination series and intuitive activation. So I'll offer a workshop for a day or 2 hours, and like doing a lot of past life regression. So this summer I taught the Illumination series, and I do it in the Indiana Dunes. So it's really beautiful, and we learn outside, we did a ton of past life regression because all the students were practicing. So I taught them how to do it for groups and individuals. And so we are getting hypnotized so many times. We're clearing so much, excuse my language, from our past that alone was making us more intuitive because we're clearing our karma, healing our trauma. And then we had an intuitive activation day where we really learned how we receive impressions and connected with our higher self and guides, whatever you're into. And then doing more spiritual hypnotherapy, all making us much more intuitive. So the emotional clearing of the essential four can really prepare people. And whenever we do regression, it may go to another life or this life unless we specifically make it to a past life. But that's been a lot of what I've been doing, the Illumination series lately, and really promoting that. Like like you guys could come in February. I'm going someplace warm in Florida, so we can do it someplace warm. And it's a training that feels like a retreat, and it clears and heals and helps you become an even better version of yourself and super duper more intuitive. So I think I answered those questions in there.
You've actually been in this industry for a while now. I'd love to hear your perspective of where you've seen this whole industry and where it is now. Like, what are your thoughts on hypnosis in the world right now?
Well, it's expanding, right? It's definitely expanding and it's becoming more and more acceptable and people are just calling it different things. Like that's what I've noticed too, like brainwave states, right? States of consciousness, right? We know that we've been guiding people into alpha and theta, right? The brainwave states of hypnosis, but now they have these new words and new terms that make it sound incredible, which it is, but they don't use the word hypnosis. So everybody's into the subconscious now, right? It's the thing now because they finally got on board to what hypnotists already knew, right? If you want to make change, you got to change in the subconscious. And I've also when I first started, I know there were more, but I only knew of two hypnosis conferences. Now I could go to one almost every single month. Although some of them are getting ridiculous because they're putting them all three together on the same weekend. I'm like, hello, people, somebody's got to talk to somebody. But yeah, so now there's a lot more conferences and and that's positive and also makes it difficult for us who like to go out there. I mean, I could just be consumed. But when you go to a hypnosis conference, have you guys gone to the hypnosis conferences? Yes.
Yeah,
You know,
we always go to Hypno Thoughts.
yeah. So right, that's one of the biggest ones. And that's changed and we don't have a governing body, but we have a lot of morals and ethics that we do our best to be part of and stay congruent with. But so that's the other thing I've noticed is a lot of more conferences and opportunities and online and in person. Have you guys what have you guys noticed about the field changing?
Well, I just notice that there are a lot more trainers that have offerings, but a lot I just see a lot more offerings instead of there
Yes.
being sort of the 5 or 6, big names that most people are aware of,
Yes.
and that, of course, just like the conferences, has its pluses and minuses.
Yeah. And you know what? I had this guy reach out to me recently, and so I just started a new endeavor and I'm doing train the trainer. So I'm training him to train people to become hypnotists. So that is always fascinating each time. Even when you're training people in general to become hypnotists, right? You learn I mean, I did. I learned so much about myself and had to dig deep on like how what makes what I do successful? What am I doing? Right? I had to dig deep and figure it out and then be able to teach it. And so then it's even more interesting to then, take two steps back, right? So I'm training him to train people and having to have those main keys on what he needs to say to his people in order to make them confident and really good hypnotists, right? It's such a fascinating time, but we need us on every street corner. We really, really do. I have this deep desire, and a lot of people do, to elevate the consciousness of humanity and move us forward into love. And I used to just say, move us forward. And then finally, I'm like, into what? So I'm like, elevate the consciousness, raise our consciousness, right? Help us to be in a higher frequency, a higher vibration, because it's been proven with all the meditation experiments and everything that when a group of people meditate, well, there's the intention experiment that can help change people, but also, the 4,000 meditators. Do you guys know that? They brought in 4,000 meditators into the Washington, D.C. area in the 1990s. 4,000 people. They were housed in dorms and stuff to see if they could reduce violent crime. And they tried to get the police on board, but they would have nothing to do with it until crime started going down. And like people didn't even know they were there, but because 4,000 people were meditating, it reduced crime, violent crime. Like the odds of that occurring by chance are like 2 in 1 billion. And so and since that time, there have been like over 50 scientific studies demonstrating the benefits of group meditation on the nation and in a local area. And so that's where I was like, oh, well, the more we work, help each and every person that we help, whether individually or in groups, to elevate their consciousness and become a better version of themselves and stay in a higher frequency, the more that then that can affect the greater consciousness and move us forward into love out of the fear, you know?
Yeah, that's right. Well, and so let me ask you this, since you have been in the industry so long also with clients, are you finding over time, do clients come back for a tune-up? When you finish the work with them, do they tend to go on their way, or what? In general, I know everybody's different, but what have been your experiences throughout your career with
Well,
individuals?
I always like to say, if time and money didn't matter, right? We would get massages, we'd get hypnosis every week, right? Or every day or whatever, right? If time and money didn't matter. So that I think plays a role. And hypnotists, we're a chunk of change. It's definitely uh, an investment in time and money to come. So there are some people who come and they get results and they're good. I always like to help people understand that it's you can hire a hypnotist not only to resolve problems, but to design a life, as well as become more intuitive. Because there's always another level in my mind, there's always another level. I mean, excuse me, there's always another layer of the onion to peel to heal. And then there's always another level of joy, of confidence, of intuition, of trust. And I have, it really depends on how we market ourselves. There are people who market it for 3 months or 6 months. I've got my four session, you know, I need to move over here. I have an 8 and 12 session package too. But but how comfortable I feel having people hand me, 3 grand and do a 12 session is going to affect whether they do that. So most of the people, it's very easy for me to get the 4 session package. Like I can uh, help people understand that it can help them and like it's $10, right? Like I really can. I've gotten that congruency and truth to that, right? But the 8 and 12, if I have money issues, plays a role in how many more will sign up for that. So if I do have plenty of people who come in for a 4 session and they're like, yeah, I want to do another 4. Yeah, I want to keep going. Yeah, I want to keep going. Um, but like but it's a stretch for some people and it's hard for some people. And then some people do want to come back. I always like, listen, if we don't I like to schedule people. So they do the 4. I'm like, let's schedule you for 2 months out if you're like really good right now, so that still, we're still in their minds. So it really depends how you frame it, how you do it. Um, and then, I mean, I have a few that, come consistently and that's what they do because they get the results. But the rest, it's like, and most of them, they come in and they come out, and then maybe they come back if like shit hits the fan. You know?
I was just going to ask you with one-on-one clients, like you're doing so much. It seems like that your business is so robust. How do you market like to your clients? Because you don't seem like a hard sell kind of person. Obviously, you're really into spirituality and intuition and all that kind of thing. So how do you get your name out?
I mean, I had to have a talk with my boss because I was pretty tired this last few days after the hypnosis conference, and and then training the people to train others become hypnotists, and then all the new clients that you get when you go. But so I have attempted to do the hard selling. I have. I did my best, and I just couldn't do it. I mean, it's like I have to learn, and it's when I go to hypnosis conferences, I just teach and I give my stuff. Like I'm there. And a lot of people will say to me that I'm authentic, right? And I've been really like, that's what a lot of people, that's what they say and I am like, okay, sure. Like when you're totally just being you, it's so hard to see what that is. And so that's what I've been contemplating lately about this thing called authenticity. And we're now hearing that it's like the highest frequency that you can be, even like above joy. But if you're, how with your clients, if they don't see what's normal for them, right? They don't just see whatever is common, the way they behave, that they're super kind. If they've always been super kind, they're not going to be like, what do you mean I'm kind? Like they have to contemplate that and realize that and notice that. So I have gone through everything and I've tried all kinds of different things. I've spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, getting my mother's voice out of my head and updating limiting beliefs. And I've also spent thousands of dollars in training and marketing. And that's, it's one thing to be a hypnotist, and it's another, you got to be able to market. So I do my best to be authentic in my marketing and whatever that means, because I'm really really learning what that means, right? Like that's like I have to figure out what they mean and what does this exactly mean. And I've been, not that I don't know what it means, it just, what does it mean for me? What is it that people are seeing? I want to be able to see what they see and then bring it out in other people. But I'm on all, social media, all of them, and I send out emails and I collect emails and I go to all these conferences and I have a table. Look at me. I'm like, just tired thinking about it, right? Marketing and me are not like the best of friends. It's not my strength, but nevertheless, uh, I do a lot of actually in-person events. So, and that's what I teach people to do. Like for the Illumination series, you're learning past life regression for individuals and for groups. So you can offer it as a way to get people into into your world, right? They can come see you privately. And then always I teach all my students this, always offer a next step. Whenever you do a class, today, a podcast, a workshop, you always offer, the people, the participants, a next step to work with you, to come through you. And that's where sometimes it's a hard sell, sometimes it's soft sell, right? We've heard it all. And right now there's a couple of camps. There's regression camps. There's a camp of hypnotists who don't believe in regression, and a really well-known school that doesn't teach it and doesn't believe in it. And then there's the other camp, like me, that thinks it's the most powerful tool in a hypnotist toolbox. I've also noticed that there's camps where we present at conferences where some people think we shouldn't be able to sell from the stage and others think we should, and then it's more of how much time we take. So I'm under the camp that it's okay to spend a few minutes sharing their next step so they know how they can continue to work with you and work on themselves, because the more we work on ourselves, the better we will be for our clients, the more present, more intuitive, we'll get those downloads, we'll be in a higher vibration, and we'll be able to help our clients more and we'll help the planet more. So how else, if they can't come to you um, if they don't know about those next steps. So that's lately this interesting talk that been having because we just got back from the Hypnosis World Mid-America Hypnosis Conference, and it's changed a bit. And it's been going on for 45 years. And so there's been a lot of that talk. But I everywhere I go, like I love live music. So I go there, we have lots of local live music. At the both times I went to this one place in Michigan City, Indiana, I got a client each time. Like everywhere I go, I talk to people. And then when I put on a lot of workshops in locally, and my most popular event in an area that you would never expect, because I do live near Chicago, but in Indiana, is Past Life Regression. You would not think in a million years that that's the one I get asked to do the most, is doing a group past life regression. People are interested. When I did a keynote last year at the conference I just mentioned at Mid America Hypnosis Conference, and it was called Turn On Your Love Light. And it was all about frequency. I mean, I shared tons and tons of research about the heart, and I mean, just fascinating stuff, probably the meditators ones too. And um, I was like, God, what are people going to think? Is this too forward thinking or advanced for them? And oh my God, all everybody talked about before it was everyone who I bumped into was like talking about frequency stuff. And I was like, oh, good. I'm good. And it was super well received. Plus, it's like, we've, can you, so let's see, like here is that love yourself, love your life, right? Like there's even a QR code, but we know that love has a field, right? That comes out of our heart, and fear is much smaller. And oh, I wanted to show you guys. I thought it was right here. Um, but like the name of the was called Turn On Your Love Light, and we know you guys not know Dr. Emoto's work.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and then the somatics, the study of somatics, right? Sound made visible, right? And they're both proving like these are not, it's not woo-woo anymore. It's real. It's
Right.
science. So
And the
it,
collective consciousness that we're all speaking about this at the same time. Well, I mean, you've been ahead of the game, right? But we're all catching up. So it's
yeah, I,
amazing.
I, that's what we need to do. We need to be, forward thinkers, and I think the world needs us so much right now. And when they know that hypnosis can help with pretty much everything, but that also says nothing at the same time, right? But so you got to have a list, right?
I'm always curious about the past life regression with groups and how that might differ from a personal experience. Are people able to have a rich personal experience, or is it more, how is it different between a group and individual?
Such a great question, Dana. So, I've recently been teaching my students, right, how to do it for groups. And the same protocol that you do for a group, you can do with individuals. When I do the group one, I offer to the people there that they can apply their investment to a private session with me. So if they didn't get their needs met, they didn't lose anything, right? They would then and come to that session. I have a way of setting it up. And what I do is prime their minds. You really need to prime people's minds. Now, have you guys ever heard of Dick Sutphin? He was a big mover and shaker in our field, and he's written a number of books, and he was really close with Richard Bach, who wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Anyway, he's written a couple books, and he did ton of psychic research and had a radio station, and thousands of people would listen, and he did all kinds of spiritual things. But he talked about that, like when you do it in a group, like that 80% was a good number to get 80% of the people to another lifetime. So I've, if you're white, I like to have people set intentions before doing anything and everything, and including past lives. And the basic is to go to another lifetime. that will serve you the most in this lifetime. But you're not going to go back to a memory where you had a super traumatic experience if your, higher self or wise mind doesn't think you can handle it in a group, right? And so that plays a role. And I believe that uh, anything you do in a private one-on-one is going, I can direct it to you. I can make sure you're having the experience. I can help you through a trauma that's happening from another lifetime. There's so many things that you can do on a one-on-one that you can't do in a group, but people still love the group. It's an eighth of the price, right? And almost everybody has an experience and learns about themselves, right? Know thyself. And I take people to the light and they go in there and they can talk to deceased loved ones or their higher self and get information. I also have them be born into love, so they go and clean up the womb. So I do all kinds of things that no matter what, they're going to almost always have a great experience. And but you can always tailor, no matter what, a past life, anything, an individual better for the individual. So it really depends on the needs of the person and what their intention is. If it's just for fun or they're curious, if they want to activate hidden talents and skills, it might be better to come for private.
Hidden talents and skills. That sounds fun.
That's what I did recently. So when I taught, I think it was intuitive activation, just 2 weeks ago at the Mid America, or was it last week? I think it was a couple days ago. I can't even remember. Um, And I took everyone through my chakra healing induction, but also when they went through each of the chakras and then to your higher self sanctuary to communicate with your higher self and guides, whoever you would like to communicate with, but going through the chakras, activating a gift within each chakra. And that was really profound for some people because they came up to me afterwards and told me that. And I had not added that before. But we want our gifts, right? We want them to be awakened. We need the world. Mother Earth needs us to awaken our gifts and trust us ourselves and be there for ourselves.
Well, I have a feeling we could just speak to you for hours, but it is time for us to go on to our next segment, which is our silly subconscious question. And we just would love to hear your sort of first answer. And our question for you today, Randy, is what is the first smell that you remember loving?
Wow. Hmm. God, can you ask me another one and I get back to it? Um, I mean, uh, I don't know if it could have been Nag Champa, sandalwood, Nag Champa, because I think that was around, you go to a yoga thing when I was in my 20s, early 20s. Or maybe it was something in college. And then we're going to say alcohol or something or not liking. I'm trying to think. I'm sure I know I was really into music and stuff in high school. So it does weed count? I don't know it. That's such a great question. That's even crazier because right here, right next to me is a warmer. So and there are resins that I want to say burning, but they're not really burning. You don't burn them, and they don't really smoke them. Well, I did this incense journey. I offered it on Sunday. So people came, and for 2 hours, we did different incenses every 15 minutes. It was called a playlist. So it's so funny that you're asking me that. And Nag Champa he told me, he said, if you don't eat the incense, don't burn it. Think about that. If you wouldn't eat it,
Oh,
don't burn it.
okay. Wow.
Interesting.
And that Nag Champa is no longer like good for you because it's not made by the same, original company, and there's toxins or somethings in there. So, Now I'm going to think about whatever that. What's your next question?
The next question is, obviously you love what you do every day, but is there something beyond that you'd like to, give us a highlight of something that lights you up in the rest of your life?
Well, I live across the street from the lake, Lake Michigan. So, some of my favorite things in the world is warm sand on my feet. I love to walk barefoot and I love nature. I think I walk or hike every day, although today's going to be tricky because it's boom, boom, boom. But so I do love dancing, like dancing, hiking, moving my body, being with, I like being with people, but lately I've been also like being on my own because I talk and listen so much. But dancing is something that is magical to me. I also make jewelry and I love creating and I love helping people and I love learning. So like if that was on the needs, the six human needs, like growth and contribution, like growth is 140. Like that's like the high, and then like certainty is 40 because I lived with so much uncertainty in my life that and it's okay now. But yeah, so did I answer that?
You actually answered a question I was going to ask about, like, how do you create the balance? And that kind of answers it. Like, it sounds like you're having a lot of fun too. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I live in a beachfront community surrounded by national parks. And when I lived in California, I lived in an intentional community called Madre Grande Monastery. And when I lived there, I lived in a dome tent, and it was so beautiful and it was so quiet, but it wasn't sustainable. You really, discovered that being in a community, the community needs to be like each individual needs to be able to have their own way of making their way in the world. And my we had when I had a baby and I went down to part-time as an environmental educator and we lost our organic farm and all the different things. My husband couldn't find work. We ended up moving back to the Midwest because I grew up in the Midwest in Illinois, but we came back here and my parents, like we didn't even have enough money to come like fly here and look. So my parents went looking for a place for me to secure like a place for 3 months. And they found this little community called Ogden Dunes. And it's a town of 600 homes. It's a very rare, special place that is across the street from the lake surrounded by dunes, and everyone makes their own way in the world, but we take care of each other. People need food or when they're sick, because we have plenty of that, but like it's a community, and you cannot be lonely in Ogden, dude. So I walk out my front door, I can talk to 20 people. Like it is just was fascinating to think that my spirit brought my parents to finding this place, and I could never afford to stay, but I never left. It was wild.
Amazing. Well, you better watch out. There might be a lot of people headed your way. It sounds great.
Yeah, I tell too many people. Yes, yeah, that, yeah.
I love it. Well, we so appreciate you sharing some time with us and sharing some wonderful stories and your experiences and all your teachings, and we just really look forward to getting to catch up with you again another time, and hope you'll come back. And with that, what do we always say, Jennifer?
Peace out.
Peace out.
Peace out, and go to my website and look at the Illumination series if you want to learn more.